بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكذلك فتنا بعدهم ببعد ليقولوا وهؤلاء من الله عليهم من بيننا أليس الله بأعلم بالشاكرين. Alhamdulillah, we're translating 53rd ayah of Surah Al-An'am. Allah Ta'ala, He says, in that way we have tested some, meaning the disbelievers, by means of others, meaning believers. So those, meaning disbelievers, may say, has Allah favored these, meaning poor believers, out of all of us? Does Allah not best recognize the grateful? وَكَذَلِكَ, and that is, this is called the demonstrated pronoun for distance. That, why did Allah use that? We will look in a minute, inshallah. Fatanna, we tested. Fatanna comes from fitna, which means to purify something. And it's typically used for the tests and the trials that people go through, because the tests and the trials, they purify the person. That is why the Arabs, they actually say, Fatantul fiddata wal dhahab, like I purify the silver and the gold, and also has the idea of burning it in fire, because that's where the purity takes place. And just like the fire has this idea of difficulties and stuff, that is exactly what happens with trials and tribulations, that there is difficulties in it. So Allah uses the word fitna to talk about any kind of difficult problems or the trials and the tests that a person goes through. Ba'adahum, some of them. Now this refers to the disbelievers. Ba'adahum, the disbelievers, some of them. Bi ba'din, by others, meaning the believers, liyakulu, so that they may say, aha'ula'i, has Allah favored, like aha'ula'i, are these are the ones, mannallahu, that Allah has showered His favors, alayhim, on them. So man has to do with showing extra favors to someone. That's man. So mannallahu alayhim, that Allah has showered His favors, alayhim, on them, min, from, baynina, amongst us. Alaysa Allahu, doesn't Allah, bi'a'lama, know the most, bishakirin, of the grateful ones. And shakirin comes from shukr, which means to literally expose something, because shakara is shin kafra. Another word that is related to it is kashara. And kashara is about peeling something. And when you peel something, you expose a thing that is hiding underneath. And that is exactly what gratitude is. The gratitude is to show favor to someone. Let's say somebody comes and does a favor to you. Maybe they bring a glass of water and you say, Jazakallah khair, meaning I understand and I recognize that you did something that you weren't necessarily obligated to do. And even if you're obligated to do, you still did something that you were going to do, or that you were supposed to do. And so the whole idea of gratitude is that the person who is grateful recognizes the favors that have been bestowed on them by the person who's showering those blessings on them in the first place. And so this is complete opposite of kufr, because kufr, on the other hand, is to hide something, because the disbeliever hides the blessings that have been given to them. They were given the blessings of life. They were given the blessings of health, of speaking, of seeing, of hearing, and instead of attributing it to Allah Ta'ala, they attribute it to other than Allah. They say, oh, the nature did it. It just happened by itself, right? Or they believe in multiple gods. Whatever the case is, as we've explained before several times, that atheism is a type of polytheism. It's a type of kufr. Why? Because you completely reject Allah Ta'ala, and when you reject Allah, you have to still fill in the gaps. And how do you fill in the gaps? Is by giving the power and what was due to Allah to other than Allah Ta'ala. It happened by itself. Oh, that's just the nature doing it. That's just the law of, it's the survival of the fittest and stuff. All those things is removing power from Allah Ta'ala and giving it to other than Allah. Whereas those who are grateful, they recognize who gave them all those blessings in the first place. So they are grateful to Allah Ta'ala. Alaysa Allahu bi'a'lama bishakirin. Now this ayah is a beautiful continuation of the previous ayah, where Allah Ta'ala speaks about these disbelievers, these elites, coming to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and saying, Ya Rasulullah, we will sit with you, we will listen to your message, but we have one condition, and that is that remove all these poor companions from your midst so that we can sit with you, because we're just too good to be amongst them. These are poor working class. We're the elites. We're used to being in this high-rise buildings and these offices, and we can't have all these, very serious conversations about life while all these poor companions are sitting with you. So if you can just do us a favor, just like get rid of them, or maybe take out a separate time where these companions are excluded, and we will listen to you. So Allah Ta'ala begins by saying, وَكَذَلِكَ, and that. And in Arabic, and even in English language a lot of times, but specifically in Arabic language, you use the demonstrated pronoun for distance, كَذَلِكَ, to show how great the matter is. وَكَذَلِكَ, and that is how, because Allah is showing how big of a fitna it was for them, that, they've been tested by this fact that these poor companions are surrounding you, subhanAllah. And it's the blessings of Allah that Allah has given to them. Because they're not grateful, it has basically reached their head and has really altered their understanding, and they think that they can't, they're too good to be sitting with these poor companions while they have surrounded you. So Allah Ta'ala is mentioning how big of a blessing, big of a fitna and a test it is for these disbelievers. فَتَنَّ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ, that we have tested some of them with the others. Now these elite, of course, have been given a lot of materialistic possession, and so on one hand they're like, we're not worthy of being in the same gathering and same spaces as these poor companions, but on top of that they started thinking that if they've been blessed so much with these worldly possessions, that even when it comes to the knowledge of deen, even when it comes to guidance, that they are more deserving of that. But they fail to recognize that when it comes to these materialistic possessions, that is purely a fadl and a blessing of Allah that's been written. The sustenance is written for you. But when it comes to guidance, that is something you have to work towards. So it's not just something that's going to come to you. Now, even for the worldly possessions, you put in the efforts, but how much is destined for the person is something that is allotted. It's taqdeer, it's given. But when it comes to guidance, you have to work towards it. But for them, it was like, hey, no, you know what? We've been blessed with money. We've been blessed with status. And so when it comes to guidance, it should also come to us. Why are we going? And so if you're going and making that effort to come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it will be on our terms. And our terms is that you get rid of these companions. So subhanAllah, it was a big test for them. And so Allah Ta'ala, He actually mentions فَتَنَّ بَعْضَهُ بِبَعْضٍ. It's a crazy test. And it's human nature that human beings typically, they don't want to listen to other human beings in the first place. Like even this whole idea. That is, if you look at workplaces, a lot of times people complain about their bosses. Why? Because it's like the boss is constantly telling them to do certain things. And so at some point the person is like, man, this boss is also a human being. I'm a human being. Why am I listening to another human being? That is a test for, there's a big test for Fir'aun. The Fir'aun had to listen to Musa alayhi salam, and he was like, really? Like somebody who can't even speak clearly is a fugitive, and I'm the one who actually raised him up? Like seriously, and he's going to come and tell me now? You look at Iblis, refused to bow down to Adam alayhi salam. Right? Because he actually thought, why am I listening to this creation who's been created in front of me right now? This is a big test for people. Even the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right now we're talking about the elites. Some of these elites were his close relatives. Some of them were his uncles. Some of them were his cousins. Very close relatives. And they were like, really, this person is going to, na'udhu billah, Rasulullah is going to come and tell us now? Like he grew up in front of us. And we see this a lot of times with families as well. They're like, oh yeah, now you became religious, and now if you go and you tell the uncle, that uncle, you shouldn't be taking interest, or you should be treating your family in a better way, or you should be praying. All of a sudden they're like, really? You're going to tell us? We're the ones who change your diapers. So it's the big test for these disbelievers that they started fitting that, no, how can we listen and be in the same gathering as Bilal radiallahu anhu, as Ammar radiallahu anhu, as Khabbab radiallahu anhu, that these are people who literally are a workforce. They are the ones who actually do all the blue collar jobs, whereas we are the ones who are the elites. We make the decisions for the societies, so we can never be in the same gathering as these individuals. So it's a huge test for them.